What is up? What is up? I am in a hotel right now, but I have my whole setup with me, which is really nice. Um, we're at a youth convention for our youth group, and it is going awesome down here. Before we get started, this is Herb Talk, and this is Herb Talk number 7, and which we are talking about wormwood today. Wormwood is an awesome anti-parasitic, and we'll dive into that here in a second. My name's Matt Pollard. I'm an herbalist. I do all sorts of different things. Been in and out of the field for 16 years and worked with doctors, chiropractors, learned traditional Chinese medicine, Taoist tonic herbalism, Ayurveda, all of those sort of things. And if you're here, you probably already know that, which is great. But if you're on YouTube or anywhere else, you're finding that out for the first time. Sweet. But we can go ahead and dive in here and get to the herb of the week. So Herb Talk number 7, y'all. We're already 7 in on Herb Talk, and it's getting better and better every single time. At least I hope so. Last week was a little finicky because I tried to do it on my phone. Um, this week, I've got my whole setup, so it's a little bit nicer, even though I still am remote. But we're going to dive in. Wormwood, also known as Artemisia absinthium. That's the botanical name for it, right? The scientific classification for it. Also known as wormwood, right? It is very, very bitter. Okay, it's intensely bitter, and that's because of a lot of the chemical compounds in it. It's got some really potent volatile oils in it, or volatile, not volatile, but volatile oils. Um, in healing systems, it's known as a cooling, drying, but stimulating herb. Okay, this is not a gentle herb. This is one that is forceful, sharp, penetrating, and corrective, right? That's why you have to use it. This is one of those herbs you use in cycles. You don't use it all the time, all right? It's not an adaptogenic. It's something that you use briefly for a specific purpose, and then you get off of it. And you do it in cycles, right? Um, a little bit of history, right? It has a lot of ancient roots. It's been used for thousands of years in ancient civilizations, used in Egypt for digestive disorders and intestinal worms, and referenced in Hippocrates for jaundice and menstrual regulation. So in European folk medicine, it's been used for parasites and digestive stagnation. So a lot to do with digestion and parasites in traditional use, right? And even medieval Europe, wormwood became known as a vermifuge, right? I think I just did a post about that, meaning worm expeller. So goes along with the name wormwood, right? Um, it was commonly steeped in wine, taken as a bitter tonic, and used for meals to stimulate digestion. Those bitters, so whenever you get a bitter of any sort, it will tighten the and tonify your digestive tract, right? So, which usually, this is why coffee will help you regulate your bowel movements, right? Because those bitters will tense your digestive tract and expel things, right? So it has a lot of history being used in alcohol. A lot of people know the famous alcohol out there, absinthe, right? So wormwood became famous and controversial, right? Through its use in alcohol. And it was really popular back in the 19th century in France. Um, and it's semi-popular nowadays, right? There's a lot of psychoactive fears, largely centered around one compound in it, which we'll talk a little bit about today, which is thujone. It's one of those volatile compounds, but it's the active, one of the main active ingredients. Um, but that, and we now know that historical hysteria around it was kind of exaggerated, right? Especially compared to like the alcohol toxicity itself, right? Alcohol was really, more playing a psychoactive role than thujone or the absinthe. The wormwood was playing a role, right? It adds a little bit to it, and when you add it to alcohol, I believe it does have a little bit of a synergistic effect with your GABA receptors, right? Because thujone does act on the GABA receptors. It is known as a monoterpene ketone. It is neuroactive in high doses. Um, it's an antimicrobial and antiparasitic, right? Thujone is. That is the chemical that is most active in wormwood. Um, but and this is why you have to dose it properly, right? Thujone is at high doses can be poisonous, right? And a lot of these herbs out there, the active compounds in them are very potent. And if you don't know that and you take too much of it, or on an empty stomach when it's not supposed to be taken on an empty stomach, those sort of things, it can cause you some discomfort or issues, and even, vomiting, stuff like that if you take too much of it. Now, you have to have a pretty good bit of some of these. Like wormwood, obviously, thujone is a very active compound that can cause those sort of things, purging effects and stuff. But you have to have a pretty good bit of wormwood to get enough thujone to cause something like that, right? That's why normally, even with absinthe, and where they've extracted it down and gotten a lot of that thujone out, even with absinthe, it's not so potent that it will actually cause any of those issues, right? So you really got to get a lot of it, and most of us in the world are not going to go to those such extremes, right? Um, it has I'm gonna try to say it, sesquiterpene, right? Sesquiterpene lactones. These are other terpenes or volatile oils in it that including absinthin, right? Responsible for the extreme bitterness, right? Then there's strong digestive stimulants, all those bitterness or those bitter compounds. They're anti-inflammatory and also anti-parasitic. Bitterness itself, like I said, it has its own effects and it is medicinal. When bitter compounds hit your tongue, the bitter receptors on your tongue activate, they stimulate your vagus nerve signal, your gastric acid production and bile flow, and pancreatic enzyme release. Remember, oh, no, I didn't talk about that. This is in the gut course. I went into this in the gut course. I forgot. I thought it was on a herb talk. But I go into this on the gut course about where digestion starts. And honestly, it starts in your mind. It starts when you see your food, when you smell your food, things start to happen, right? Chemicals change in your brain. Digestive enzymes get prepared. Saliva starts coming out when you smell a certain food or when you see a certain food. Those things start to happen already, right? So those senses cause digestion to start happening. It's getting ready for what's coming, right? The taste on your tongue is not just for pleasure, y'all. It's not. It is specific to activate all the systems in your body in sequence. There is a sequence to how everything happens. And if you skip a sequence, you skip critical information for your body to get the whole digestion right. Um, and if you only have one taste, if you only have sweet, if you only have salt, and you don't get any other flavors, your body's not going to properly prepare for what needs to be digested. This is extremely important, right? So bitterness in and of itself, when it hits the tongue, already starts to put you into parasympathetic mode. So it activates that vagus nerve and then it starts to get all the digestive enzymes and acids and everything going in the right direction. It's really interesting as something moves through your digestive tract, one thing will signal to the next that this particular thing is coming and allows everything to prepare for it to move through the digestive tract. It's really important. It's really important that we don't try to mask too many flavors, that we try to get an all-around flavor profile when we're, seeking and eating food, right? It's important not to mask all the bitters, to have a little bit of bitter if we're eating something bitter, right? Not mask it all with salt or sweet or, anything else, right? Um, Volatile oils, all of, oh, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, that was Jennifer. I didn't know she was on it. Hello. So it's important to get those bitter compounds, like I was saying. All of the, let's see, um, so all the flavonoids. Um, okay, I don't know. Let me get through this before you start talking. Okay. Anyways, um, that was the youth group. They're all excited to watch. Uh, Volatile oils. So they're antimicrobial, antifungal, anti-helminthic, right? So anti-worm. And we'll get to that here in just a second. There's flavonoids and polyphenols as well that are antioxidant, liver supportive, and anti-inflammatory. Lots of great stuff in these herbs that have many different actions that reach out all through the body and start to work in many different ways, right? So it's extremely important when you're also using herbs to try and get a whole um, a whole herb, right? You want everything within it because everything is working together to achieve a purpose, right? Um, so as an anti-parasitic is where it shines, right? Where wormwood really got its spotlight, other than alcohol. But wormwood has traditionally been used against roundworms, pinworms, hookworms, and protozoal organisms, right? So remember, protozoal is the single-celled parasite organisms, right? So it fights parasites. A pretty well-rounded uh, parasite fighter, right? Not just worms. It goes after all the single-celled organisms as well, which is really awesome. It works by direct toxicity to parasites. Now, this is tricky because it is toxic, right? It's toxic to us in high doses, but it's also toxic to parasites, okay, in low doses. So that's the key is your dosage on this one. This is why this is something you don't take a whole bunch of for a long period of time. Um, it won't cause any damage to you unless you take a whole bunch of it forever, right? So this is why it's meant to be cycled. But thujone and other volatile oils disrupt parasite nervous systems and they impair its metabolism so it can't produce energy, right? And then it interferes with its reproduction. So it stops that reproduction cycle in these worms and parasites so that it's not going any further, right? This is a part of a larger formula of three main herbs that we'll be going through the rest of this month. But this is one part of stopping that reproductive cycle and killing parasites, the adult parasites, right? Um, and it, just so you know, parasites, they thrive in low stomach acid, right? Sluggish bile flow and stagnation. So if you've had your gallbladder removed, right? This can be a really big issue, parasites, because they'll thrive in an environment without that bile production. Um, if you have any sort of digestive issues, they will thrive in that, right? But wormwood increases your acid secretion, which is really great. It stimulates bile and it improves motility. So it doesn't just have a direct action on the parasites, like I said, it has all those other things that are happening with it that work together and to increase and change the environment of your digestive tract to make it less hospitable terrain for uh, for those parasites, right? So because of thujone, though, low doses are stimulating digestive tonic, right? High doses are a neurotoxic potential. This is why it's not used long term or continuously. Avoided in pregnancy, right? Avoided at all in pregnancy, and it has to be very um, it has to be very monitored with people with seizure disorders and stuff like that because it can have some stimulatory effect on that nervous system, right? So it's got to be, and when you start to kill parasites, you have to deal with those dead parasites, right? And so this is why we start low and build up with herbs like this. We start slow and progressive that way we love the parasites out of our body, not just direct full on kill them, right? I'm a fan of ivermectin and fenbendazole and those sort of compounds, right? Even though they're not completely natural, I am a fan of them because they do help and don't seem to have a lot of major side effects, right? Um, but they will kill stuff fast, right? And it's extremely potent in its action, right? So those sort of, yeah.
I was reading on that, and my understanding is with the parasites that the reason why people have a issue getting rid of them is because the eggs embed into the tissue.
Hmm.
The adult parasite, they stop taking the stuff, and then the
Yeah.
eggs have more eggs because they have thousands.
Yep.
That's why we're continuously fighting parasites.
Yep. Yep. That's true. That is why wormwood is only one part of the whole picture because it does kill the adults, but it doesn't take care of the eggs. So, and even your stomach acid. So what happens is the acid inside of your stomach, when you have really good stomach acid, when a parasite hits that acid, it'll die for the most part, right? It takes a little bit, but it'll die. But the body of that parasite will actually shield the eggs inside of the parasite. So when it moves into the next phase of your digestive tract, when it's not as acidic, it hatches, right? And so um, you have to hit it on every part. And this is why we do a parasitic cleanse in a very particular way as well. Because the way that I do it, it's a 5 week parasitic cleanse, right? And so it's 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on. And you're increasing the intensity of it all the way until the last week, right? But you do it in cycles like that. So this specific formula that I have that we'll be giving away is one where you take a small amount of capsules for 1 week, you increase the dosage for another week, you take a week off, and this is where you kill the any eggs that are exposed right then with the whole formula. You'll kill those eggs, you'll kill those adults and everything like that. But what is not exposed or what is not hatched, that isn't readily available for the herbs to have action on that week in between is where those parasites will start to come back, but they don't have enough time to reproduce quickly enough. And so you will hit them again on that after that cycle with a much more intense dosage for 2 weeks, and then you're done, right? So that's the whole cycle that we use. But wormwood is normally paired with black walnut hull, clove, um, gentian, and or gentian and phenol, and sometimes like licorice and stuff like that. There's other anti-parasitic stuff out there. Some that even have thujone in it, right? So I know oregano has thujone, but not as intense as wormwood does. Wormwood is pretty potent in it, but But when you combine them, right, and we'll get to next week, we'll go over black walnut hull, and then the week over that, we'll go over, or the week after that, we'll go over clove, and that's a part of the whole formula because they all have different actions on the different parasites, but also the different stages of parasites. So some of them have killing action on the eggs, some of them have more killing action on the adults. Um, so yeah, we'll break into that for sure. But that broader parasite coverage, it gets the egg phase, it disrupts it. Like clove does that, right? Clove's really good at penetrating, and we'll get in there and get those eggs. It'll reduce cramping and improve tolerance, right? So that you have to, that synergy is way more effective than just taking one single herb at a time, right? You get them all together and it tackles it all together. But also that strategy that I just went over of going through that 5 week process in that particular manner is very important as well. Not just taking the herbs, right? You can take them, but you might miss something, right? If you don't do it in a good order, or if you cut it off too soon. That's why you take that week off, first of all, so you don't develop toxicity to it through it, for over time, it doesn't hurt you. Um, but also so that you can catch the parasites off guard, basically. And I will do this probably twice a year, right? It's not something that you do all the time, every other month or so. It's a 5 week process. It's something that you just add to your supplements or add to your daily um, regimen, right? And you do it for 5 weeks and you're good for 6 months, right? And then you do it for 5 more weeks and you're good for 6 months, and you could be good for a year, right? But there are some parasites that will grow inside of you and move through different stages of tissue and different organs over the course of 2 years, right? So one that I was tracking went 2 years, and it starts off in your small intestine, and then it moves up into your lungs over the period of 2 years, and then you start to have these lung issues all the time. And what started off as a digestive tract issue, and you're thinking, okay, I've got a gut problem, I got to fix that and everything, moves into a respiratory issue, where you start to have issues with oxygenation of your blood, CO2 release from your lungs, those sort of things. And doctors will see that and they'll think it's something completely different, when in all reality, it's a parasite causing that damage and that issue. So, that's why it's important to make sure that some of your symptoms aren't parasites. When you do these sort of cleanses every 6 months, you know for sure it's not a parasite, then you can approach it differently. That's why parasite cleanse is very important. Um, uh, right off the bat, like it should be one of the first things everybody does for a health protocol, just because it eliminates some of the confusion, right, when you're trying to figure out what's going on with your body. Um, so so wormwood is very powerful, right? Parasites are real. You should know this. It's not talked about enough in the medical community. It's really not talked about at all because, um, dare I say it, they don't always want people to be healed, right? And parasites are a major reason as to why people are in the position they're in, and medicines don't tend to get rid of them. And so they'll treat the symptoms all day long of a parasite, but they won't actually treat the parasite that's causing it, right? So, or if it does, they won't treat the eggs or the larva or whatever else afterward that um, can breed and come back, right? So, um, definitely be weary of this herb if you are pregnant, right? Or breastfeeding or have seizures. Um, and always do it in short cycles, right? So you have, this is one of those where you have to respect the the dosage. This is not a more is better type of herb. There's a lot of herbs out there where more is better. I love medicinal mushrooms for that purpose. You can take as much of it as you want for as long as you want, and you only feel better, and it only helps you, and it doesn't hurt you, right? Um, those are true adaptogenic herbs, true tonic herbalism, right? But um, but uh, this is not one of those, right? This is definitely not one of those. And there's a lot of those out there like this that you have to be very respectful of. So wormwood is a bitter teacher, right? It restores what stagnation corrupts, and bad digestion corrupts, right? But it must be used with wisdom, not fear, not obsession, and not excess, but with wisdom. So that is the first part of this formula. Um, there are three major herbs that have been historically used together with wormwood. Well, there's two other herbs that have been historically used together with wormwood, which is black walnut hull and clove, which we are going to get to in the next couple of weeks. But is there any questions about wormwood or anything like that? Man, we got some good people on here. I've got to add y'all into the to the drawing at the end of the month. I got a so instead of drawing them out of a bucket, I have a raffle app now. So we've got we've got our raffle app, and it's got the names in there. And so I'm gonna add everybody in here and make sure they all got it. Oh, where'd everybody go? I dropped off. Where'd they all go?
Here.
One. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, there's Tabitha and somebody else was on here. I don't know where they all went. It's okay.
Can you not
What's that?
question? I mean, I know you talked about, and you're talking about parasites and stuff. With that, it's my understanding that it's gut health that you need to keep up because your gut health is actually what controls everything else and connecting it to inflammation and cancer and a lot of things.
Yeah,
You've got good bacteria and bad bacteria where the parasites come in and destroy the good bacteria.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have a good gut, it's going to ward off parasites much better. But they do have techniques, just like we talked about a little bit last week. They are very good at avoiding anything that kills them, and so they have techniques of getting by, right? So it is important to not just focus on your gut. Focusing on your gut will definitely keep you um, you're more likely not to get parasites, right? But if you have extreme exposure or anything, environmental exposure or whatnot, or even skin contact can cause it as well. Um, that is definitely skin contact. Your digestive tract's not going to stop a parasite from. And actually, that parasite that I was talking about earlier actually starts at skin contact. I forgot that's where it was started. Starts at skin contact and actually moves into the body. So that's not going to stop. The digestive tract's not going to stop it. But for those other ones, for sure, your stomach acids being really good, um, your whatchamacallit, your microbiome and everything. That's going to help. Mostly the microbiome is going to help with your smaller organisms, the single-celled parasites and stuff like that. It'll help with the others, but not as much. Make sure I got everybody in here. All right.
So will a prebiotic or slash probiotic help build the gut to help fight off the parasites that get also cleanse every
Yeah.
6 months?
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of a greater regimen, right? Like when you add all these strategies up, when you have a good microbiome, when your gut's functioning correctly, and when you do a parasite cleanse every 6 months, every 6 months to a year. Like if you can't do it every 6 months, that's fine. Do it every year at least. And alternate it with your with a fasting period. If you do a fast every year, then go ahead and do a parasite cleanse like on the other 6 month end of that, right? So because fasting is very good for parasite cleansing as well. Um, but I would do, fasting and then 6 months later do a parasite cleanse, right? So you can alternate stuff like that strategically um, if you're already doing that, right? So but yeah, all of those things together are going to present you better nutrient absorption. You're not going to have damage in your gut lining and your tissue. You're going to actually absorb the nutrients that you are digesting, and your whole digestive tract is going to work and function better. When your digestive tract works and functions better, most of your issues go away. I'll be honest. Most of the disease out there starts in the gut, right? And so that is why it is on the forefront of everything that I do. And that's why I did the gut health course first. I got that one finished first so that people understand this is the first thing, this is the first step, right? To a really, really good health. So yeah, that was a good.
That wormwood helps with um, okay.
So thujone has been historically used for it. I'm not sure about the research around that, but I know it's been mentioned in um, historical folklore medicine and such. Some of that you have to look at and say, okay, maybe there was something else going on there. Um, and I haven't looked at the historical context of that yet. Um, it's I couldn't find it honestly. Um, I've found mentions of it, but I haven't found the full historical context of that. But it is mentioned and being used in those historical periods. Um, let's see, let's see. Yeah, Hippocrates. So there's not a whole lot written about Hippocrates, but it is found um, in different things. But usually it's associated with something that the herb is more known for. Um, so, and I haven't looked up that time period and what it was used for. I probably should have done that. But yeah, it was used in Hippocrates' time, um, or is known to be used in Hippocrates' time for jaundice and menstrual cycles. Which,
So if it's used like for jaundice, does it cleanse the liver or something?
yeah, it does help with liver detoxing. And a lot of those bitter compounds, flavonoids, and polyphenols are going to help stimulate the liver. And its digestive stimulation also helps stimulate the liver. The liver has a lot of different actions with digestion. Um, but yeah, it'll help detox the liver for sure.
So basically, the wormwood is a great detox in moderation.
Yes, yeah, it's in high doses. This is why it's not really mentioned much as a liver detoxant or anything like that, is because in high doses it's harmful to you, right? So moderation is key with this one for sure. So
So would you recommend that people not do that on their own, that they seek guidance to when taking wormwood since it can be harmful?
Yeah, I mean, so wormwood usually is only used in it's usually only used in parasitic cleanses. There are some other uses for it, but and so when you find it, like when you find it in a formula or something online, usually it's meant for a cycled cleanse, and that's pretty clear in the directions. Um, it's not something I would take every day, um, but you can have your own judgment about it. But definitely, it's something that if you have uh, a natural a naturopath or somebody that you see, you know, that would be able to monitor things for you and stuff like that. You can definitely do that. Um, but I wouldn't say that the dosages of the toxic compounds are so much in just like a whole wormwood powder or herb that you're going to see any of those negative side effects, right? You just got to be clear not to take it for too long, right? So, um, I'm reading a little bit about the menstrual effects of it. So, hormones. So it does have a somewhat of a direct action on menstrual cycles. Um, but I'm diving into a little study here on it. Okay. Yeah, it's still very cautious with it. Various species. Oh, that's why. Okay. Sorry. I'm getting more into it here. Yeah, I had that in my notes and then I didn't go back and look up why or figure out why. But I guess it's used to it's known to be used to regulate irregular cycles, stimulates the uterus to induce menstruation. Still not something I would use on a regular basis, right? Because of its stimulation in that area. Um, and it, I guess it increases blood flow, helps to increase blood flow and relieves menstruation. Or sorry, relieves menstrual cramps. Um, yeah, it's and because of that stimulation on this is why you definitely shouldn't take it when you're pregnant. It stimulates the uterus area, so you definitely don't want to use it when you're pregnant because it can cause issues with the baby or harm the fetus. So, so short periods, short, you know, small doses and not when pregnant. So still, so I guess if you are having issues with your cycle or whatnot, and you want to get on a more regular cycle, um, or if you're trying to stimulate a regular cycle, then you would do something like um, you would do something like um, basically around what time you should have your cycle, you would start taking the herb for like a week to help bring it on, and then you would stop, right? And then maybe the next month when you're supposed to have it, you start taking it for a few days to a week until it, you know, brings it on, and then you stop. But you don't take it the whole time, right? Because then that's overstimulation of the uterus. Does that make sense? Lane.
To figure out the buttons. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what particular compounds are causing that action in there. I haven't dove deep into that side of it because I was more focused on the wormwood stuff. I mean, on the parasitic stuff. But but it's still something you definitely don't want to take all the time. It's just to induce, um, a cycle, and then you stop. Oh, that's weird. Phone's going off. Somebody's calling me in the hotel. Are there any more questions around that? Anybody? Anybody? So, what's up? Were you gonna say something, Mom?
Yeah, I was gonna say with my menstrual thing, would it? Um, I lost it. I'm getting old. I need something from
Clarity of thought will happen with a good gut as well.
Yes, I know. It gives you clarity in the brain and everything once you get to that. I've been reading up on gut
Hmm.
with the menstrual cycle thing. Would it? I wonder if it would, since it would bring it on, if it would make you not go into menopause earlier. If it would continue to not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, okay.
I mean, it's not something I have to worry about because I just have to talk to stress.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it has to do with increasing blood flow to the pelvic organs and area to help initiate menstruation. I don't know um, if that is through hormonal means or if it's through just uh, I don't know if it's through some other action, right? So I'm trying to figure that out as we go here. I can't seem to find exactly what compounds or anything, and they may not know. They just may see the effects of it um, and not know exactly what's causing it, right? Let's see. What's
Yeah,
that?
and not had any research
Well,
on it.
no, it is. So it is thought to be thujone that's doing it. So that thujone, the volatile compound that directly stimulates the uterine contractions and increased tone and reproductive tissues. So, um, yeah, so it does seem to be thujone that is thought to be what is causing it. At least that's what I'm finding. Um, yeah, we're doing real life research here. That's good. Despite soon effects on smooth muscles, yeah. So it's really good for menstrual cramps as well because it does have an anti-spasmodic properties on smooth muscles, which is really good. So so yeah, all around it's good for the menstrual cycle, right? And especially the start of a menstrual cycle, it can um, and increase the health around that, basically. So yeah, sorry.
For if you're taking it for parasite issues,
Yeah.
would it do a false menstrual or start you a menstrual cycle while you're on it?
So yeah, maybe and maybe not, right? So it's probably, and I'm only speculating. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Are you there? Oh, she's got to get out and get back in. Um, I'm only speculating here. But just because it stimulates blood flow to the area and all that stuff doesn't mean it's going to bring it on. Um, it still probably has to be around a similar time of month, right? It still probably has to be a similar cycle. I don't believe that it's going to, like if you just went through a menstrual cycle and then you start taking it, it's going to bring on another period, right? Um, it's most likely it still has to be cycled around those times. It helps to bring on a regular menstrual cycle, not a, it doesn't stimulate to make it irregular, right? So I would assume that it's not going, now this can be an, I can't experiment with that, so this could be a good experimentation for somebody that wants to do that and get back to us with that knowledge. But
I can't either.
yeah. So if anybody wants to be a guinea pig with that, anecdotal evidence, um, then that would be great. But I'm not sure because I haven't gone through that, so I don't know. I would know because I've taken it, and well, I mean, Jennifer and I are taking it right now, right? We're going through the parasitic cleanse, and um, I don't know. I'll have to ask her if I'll have to ask her and see what's going on with that. I didn't even look into that part of it because I was more focused on the parasite stuff. So we'll we'll have to do that because we did start taking it and she got her period. So I wonder.
Have yourself a
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to do that, huh? I'm gonna have to do some experimentation on Jennifer first. She can be my guinea pig. Yeah, well, the next series that we're going to dive into is going to be autoimmune because a lot of this parasitic cleanse stuff goes into autoimmune disease. Parasites are a trigger for autoimmune issues and they're not the sole cause, right? Autoimmune disease is caused it's mostly genetic predispositions that are stacked on top of each other with nutrient deficiencies and environmental triggers, right? That's basically what causes an autoimmune response. Um, if you have the particular genes and they are ramped up or ramped down depending on what genes they are, and we will go through that pretty thoroughly. There's 5 genes specifically related to autoimmune diseases that are very important to understand. Um, and when you change the way that they act or make them dormant or ramp them up based on the environmental signaling that you give those genes, that first causes those genes to um, change the way your thyroid works, change the way that your immune system works. And then you add an all-out trigger. So something that the immune system sees as a really bad threat, then you have an overstimulation of the immune system, while your genetics are not prepared for it, right? So you've adapted your genetics to be prepared for a mild situation, and then a whole war hits and it's not ready, right? So then the immune system goes rampant, takes over organs, right? The immune system will take over organs um, to create certain actions within your body, but it surpasses all the regulatory functions. And so it thinks it's doing the right thing and it's not. And so then you have a cycle that happens with autoimmune. But parasites can be that trigger. And so parasites can be that war that happens within you. And it can also be one of the environmental factors that causes the genes to change. Um, when you have parasites that are causing nutrient deficiencies and all sorts of things for years and or even months sometimes, it can prime your genetics to a situation where they're not prepared, right? You're not adapted to have a good functioning immune system. And just some people are just unlucky with these particular genes, but it doesn't mean that they are set in stone, right? Genetics can be altered to a certain extent. You can make genes go completely dormant, or you can express certain genes, but then you can also ramp up the action of certain genes and downgrade the action of certain genes based off environmental signals that you give your genetics. It's extremely important to understand that even things that you believe are genetic can be altered and changed for the most part, right? There are some things, which is not even 5% of the population, has real genetic disorders. Um, everybody out there thinks that they have genetic disorders that they can't get past. And the doctors will tell you so. Oh, it's genetic. Oh, you're so and so had heart disease. You probably have it too. No, you have a genetic predisposition to heart disease or to this or to that because you're missing this mineral, right? Well, then just take that, get that mineral somewhere else, right? There's options. Um, or because you're not methylating your thyroid hormones correctly, right? Get a methylated compound that helps you methylate that T4 into T3, right? That's Hashimoto's. Um, that's the main issue with Hashimoto's. But like simple things like that can not only um, alter your genetics, ramp it up. We'll get into all this. It's really, really deep um, with autoimmune disease, and we'll break it apart and get really specific on a lot of it. But I want to do that because autoimmune is it's causing a lot of issues in our world, and a lot of people have autoimmune issues and they don't know it. They don't see the signs, and then parasites are a major contributing factor to that. And when you pretty much most people, if they were to follow an autoimmune specific diet or structure, they would actually benefit from it, right? So it can be extremely beneficial to most people to understand um, this particular subject, right? So that's why I want to do it, get into that. But parasite cleanse is a part of that, and we'll get into that after the parasite cleanse series. Then we'll actually start with why it's important to do a parasite cleanse for autoimmune. Um, so yeah. But sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant there. Yeah, I'll have to ask Jennifer if this is their normal time for getting her cycle and see if it was something that could have been brought on, right?
Found this on the web for and see if
What
it
the
was
heck is
something that
that?
you brought on right. Check it out.
Did y'all hear
Yep.
that? I guess Siri popped on. No, don't pop on again. I'm not trying to do anything. That's funny. It's always listening, this technology, y'all. Always listening. So let's see. Postmenopausal syndrome. Cognition. So, okay. Neurotransmitter support, one, reduce suppression. Serotonin, dopamine. Yeah. Um, so it does have Wormwood does have a direct action with the GABA receptors, and um, it's it stimulates the release of serotonin and dopamine, which I actually and norepinephrine, which I actually believe that I've experienced taking this parasitic formula. I did experience a lot more energy and in my brain. Man, my brain has gotten much sharper through this, it feels like. And I was thinking it was more of like a, okay, it's starting to kill some of these parasites, and I'm just, feeling, but it could be the action of the actual stimulation of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. So it does help with postmenopausal syndrome. Um, and those sort of symptoms, anxiety, depression, cognitive dysfunction, all that sort of stuff that can happen after that. So, but like I said, it's not something to be taken every single day, something to be taken in cycles. So if you have those side benefits, I like to say that herbs have side benefits, not side effects. Um, Most of the time they have side benefits, not side effects. Some do have side effects. Um, so definitely um, definitely some awesome side benefits from this herb, right? Other than its parasitic action, its action to get rid of parasites. I gotta add Sarah to the drawing here. She hopped on last minute. We're about to get off of here.
Sorry, I was late.
You're good. I got you in here.
Oh, thank you.
So we
Yeah,
got
it was a good one. I'll go into.
yeah, we got I mentioned wormwood's effects on uh menstrual cycles, and I didn't really dive into it because I was focused on the parasitic action, anti-parasite action. And Lane mentioned it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I wasn't prepared for that question. So we were all researching together.
He went down a wormhole.
Yeah, yeah, wormhole with wormwood.
Wormwood, wormwood has good benefits too.
Yeah. Do you know anything about wormwood and the menstrual cycle off the top of your head?
But I'll do some research.
Yeah, we've dove in a little bit here. Um, it's pretty awesome. It looks like the the polyphenols and flavonoids and different polysterols and stuff in it and increases nitric oxide levels. Um, so it increases blood flow to those areas and stuff. So um, and helps stimulate menstrual cycles and stuff if it's irregular. But yeah, but it's something that it still isn't something that you would take all the time, right? Because it can become neurotoxic if taken too long or too much. So
Yes.
I stress that to people because although it can help with certain things, and although you might feel really great on it because it does have that neurotransmitter stimulation, and it acts with alcohol really well in the GABA receptor zone, but it's not something to be taken all the time. So just like alcohol is not meant to be drinking all the time, right? So Um, those sort of things have a overstimulatory action and should be done in moderation. But anybody got any more questions before we get off of here? No.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna go back and look at everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll post it right after this. And I've got to get to the event for our youth group just started. And so I've got to pack my stuff up and get over there and go worship. So I'll go have some fun.
Sounds like fun.
Yes, for sure. All right, y'all. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye, y'all.